Last week, Michael Jaston took over from Colin Blakely's highly praised performance in Peter Shaffer's Equus. This is the play's third cast change since its opening in 1973. Equus has had a success throughout the world unequalled by any other modern British play. Almost all Peter Shaffer's plays have been an instant critical and box office hit. After Five Finger Exercise, which earned him in 1958 the accolade as the most promising British playwright, he wrote several brilliant comedies: The Private Ear, The Public Eye, White Liars, and Black Comedy. In 1964, the National Theatre staged The Royal Hunt of the Sun. In this play about the Spanish invasion of the Incas, Shaffer sets Christian mythology against the darker pagan one. In Equus, he again takes up the plea for the darker forces in life and laments our loss of passion. The play is a stirring duel between a psychiatrist and a 17-year-old boy who has blinded 6 horses he loved. Arena filmed Colin Blakely in one of his last performances before leaving for Canada, where Sidney Lumet has just started filming Equus. The boy is played by Jerry Sandquist.
Now, Alan, you're going to answer questions I'm going to ask you. Do you understand?
Yes.
When you wake up, you're going to remember everything you tell me. Is that all right?
Yes.
Good. Now, I want you to think back in time. You are on that beach you told me about. The tide has gone out and you're making sand castles. Above you, staring down at you, is that great horse's head with the cream dripping from it. Can you see that?
Yes.
Now, you ask the horse a question. Does the chain hurt?
Yes.
You ask him aloud.
No.
What does the horse say back?
Yes.
And you say?
I'll take it out for you.
And he says?
It never comes out. They have me in chains.
Like Jesus?
Yes.
Only his name isn't Jesus, is it?
No.
What is it?
No one knows but him and me.
Oh, you can tell me, Alan. Name him.
Equus.
Thank you. Now tell me, does Equus live in all horses or just some?
All.
Good. Now, you leave the beach, you're in your bedroom at home. You are 12 years old, you're in front of the photograph. You are staring at Equus from the foot of your bed. You want to kneel down?
Yes.
Go on then. Now tell me, why is Equus in chains?
For the sins of the world.
What does he say to you?
I see you. I will save you.
How?
Bear you away. 2 shall be 1.
What horse and rider shall be one beast?
1 person.
He looked at you with his gentle eyes and spake unto you.
Yes.
What did he say? Ride me. Mount me and ride me forth at night.
Yes.
And you obeyed.
Yes.
Let's do it, Alan. Let's go riding. Now, you are there. Now, in front of the stable door, that key's in your hand. Go and open it. Quietly as possible. Dalton may still be awake. Quietly. Now, go in. You're on the inside now. All the horses are staring at you. Can you see that?
Yes.
Now, which one are you going to take?
Nugget.
What color's Nugget?
Chestnut.
What do you do? First thing.
Put on his sandals.
Sandals.
Sandals of majesty, made of satin. Tie them around his hooves.
Four hooves.
Yes. Chinkle chankle. He doesn't like it so late, but he takes it for my sake. He bends for me. He stretches forth his neck to it. Buckle and lead out.
No saddle.
Never.
Go on.
Walk round the path behind. He's quiet. Who is this he? Weak and mild legs. At least till the field, then there's trouble. You won't go in. It's a place of ha-ha. Ha-ha.
Well, make your point, bitch.
Come on. Come on. quickly.
All your clothes.
Yes.
Where'd you leave them?
In a tree hole near the gate. No one could find them.
How does it feel now?
Burns.
Burns.
The mist.
Go on now, what?
Man bit.
Mambit.
Stick for my mouth.
For your mouth.
To bite
Why?
on.
What for?
So as it won't happen too quick.
Is it always the same stick?
Of course. Sacred stick. Keep it in the hole. The ark of the man bit.
Now what? What happens now?
Touch him.
Where?
All over. Everywhere. Belly and ribs. His ribs are of ivory, of great value. His flank is cool. His nostrils open for me. His eyes shine. They can see in the dark. Eyes.
Then,
Give sugar.
lump of sugar.
His last supper.
Last, for what?
Ha ha.
Do you say anything when you give it to him?
Take my sins. Eat them for my sake. He always does. And then he's ready.
What, you can get up on him now?
Yes.
Well, do it then. Mount him!
Equus! Equus? 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 Take me! Ah! Hurts! Knives in his skin, little knives.
Equus is a battle between two forces, intellect and passion, the head and the heart. Peter Schaffer. There is always the fight between Apollo and Dionysus in your plays, and it seems always that the Apollo side wins the battle.
Do you think it does in Equus?
Well, the boy has to deny ecstasy.
Yes, but the Apollonian figure is fairly ripped up at the end of it too, isn't he? I think I'm in a way rather pleased that you say that, because some people have been alarmed that Equus is a defense of, to me, a fairly mindless proposition of anything you do is all right. Do your own thing. I just don't want to set up a rather crude antithesis between somebody young and pretty doing their own thing and somebody old and less pretty envying it. It's not that simple. I think that tragedy is not for me a conflict between, or for anybody I suspect, demonstrable right and demonstrable wrong. It is a collision between two different kinds of right. And that's what I was trying to do in Equus. I think that each of them is incomplete and damaged.
You believe in the capacity of modern man to destroy themselves and constantly doing so.
Oh yes, constantly, and I think more and more so. I think I'm very disappointed in that. In the way great impulses get lost very quickly. For example, the hippie movement, which seemed to me to enshrine a great deal of real concern. That a lot of it seemed to me to fritter itself away in silliness and numerology and superstitions of all kinds and dottiness. And that's saddening, because it's funny how things do, like water, trickle into the sand.
But why do you think this happens? Is it the world we live in, or?
I think because the world needs, certainly in America, where a lot of it comes from, it seems to need instant revelation, hence est, and all that, hence, which is a crash course in existentialism, and very good in terms of what it offers, but its assumption that your life can be changed instantly like that, I think is a bit phony. I think it's a bit, I don't think it happens like that. You can't go to for a course of life for 24 hours.
Do you think the theatre still has the capacity of giving this instant revelation?
Yes, unquestionably it can at its best. I think all art can. I think it is one of the great functions of art. And it doesn't have to be something solemn. It usually isn't. It's a moment, a leap of excitement inside oneself, which can be attached to a moral insight or a laugh. That's an unexpected emotion that is surprised. You surprise a laugh in yourself. And it comes bolting out like a rabbit out of a hedge. And that is a form of revelation, or can be. Not just excitement, it can be attached to something you've never thought before, and it can move you in that way. The way something is staged. I find the aesthetic explosion that happens like that a source of revelation. I remember seeing the Rockefeller collection of African art, primitive art, which was done at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. And I was always under the impression that African art consisted of a lot of rather crude lumps of wood, distorted lumps of wood, vaguely ugly and not very interesting. And I went in with that feeling and came out totally changed about it, with my head looking in the opposite direction. I wanted to see a great deal more of it and touch it and feel it. I had a violent shock from it. And I've often had that from theatre. I think it's terribly important, the theatre in this way, as a live experience, because you can see sudden shocks and murmurs in audiences. I mean, listening to audiences is a very fascinating thing, where because it's got two natures. It's got its communal nature, which happens very quickly, and audiences become whatever they're going to be for the evening very quickly. I should think about a couple of minutes. But within that communal set thing, there are individuals who are reacting and murmuring all the time. Little seismographic murmurs go through the house of people, and they can be those things in great plays or great productions, moments of revelation.
Both plays, Royal Hunt and Equus, are concerned with the image of God, and it has been suggested that you are increasingly interested in the Christian God.
I note what people say and get sometimes rather excited by what they say, but to be honest, I'm never sure at the moment when I wrote it that was what I was doing, what the critics say I was doing. But I do note now, because I'm a certain distance from both plays, that they are concerned with either a search for religious experience, for transcendent experience, or, in the case of Equus, the envy of one man who hasn't experienced emotion and worship transcendently for somebody who he believes has. I don't know that is necessarily a preoccupation with Christianity as such. I don't think I accept that Christ was the only figure to be invested with Godhead.
Do you believe that the loss of a faith is fatal?
I think it can be fatal, yes, if it is a true faith and not a superstition. I mean, one could talk forever about the difference between those things. When most people say they've lost their faith, in that casual way people say it, I don't think they have lost sometimes very much. They have lost a lot of received ideas. I think it's very difficult it's much harder to lose what you have made yourself, what you have come to yourself. I used to be puzzled when I was younger, and people said, "Are you a Jew? Are you Jewish?" And I mean, an unevasive reply to that in terms of the religious side of Judaism would be, "No, but I may become one." I think religion is something religious belief is something one has to discover and for oneself. One has to make for oneself. One makes religion as one makes love. I'm always fascinated by the expression "making love." You make it. It's something to create for yourself. And I think religion is something you create for yourself. You can't just receive a set of principles and say, "That makes me a Christian, that makes me a Catholic," and so on. I can't understand that.
Before embarking on large plays dealing with metaphysical questions, Schaffer wrote a series of short comedies. The Private Ear and The Public Eye are both based on two versions of the Eternal Triangle, one lower middle class, the other upper crust. Black Comedy is a farce which makes use of all the traditional conventions of mistaken identity and visual puns. What makes it outstandingly funny is that the whole action is played out in total darkness, as far as the characters on stage are concerned. The play's success relies entirely on the audience's willingness to believe in this theatrical trick. Peter Schaffer's comedies are naturalistic plays centered on brilliant display of verbal wit and hilarious situations. He's sometimes accused of writing in too traditional a vein, but it is precisely this capacity for telling a story that makes him so popular. Schaffer's plays normally take a very long time to write. Black Comedy is the exception. It was finished in 12 days.
I had to do it in that time, or not do it at all. It was a farce, and I think it benefited by this reversal of my usual process, because it was like making a souffle. One had to do it very quickly, and it had to rise very quickly, or it wouldn't rise at all. You can't brood over gags forever. Either they strike you as funny, and you put them down with the immediacy of the way you find them funny, or they'll go flat.
Do you think it's possible to write farce in our permissive society?
It's difficult, very difficult, because the great farces for me, for example, are the farces of Feydeau, and they're bedroom farces, and they're middle-class farces, and they are very akin to melodrama. For example, only in a farce of Feydeau can you say, you open that door and your marriage is at an end, because there's a girl cowering behind it, or you open that drawer and you'll be bankrupt. Today, in the permissive age, if the wife or the husband doesn't much care who they find if they open that door, of course there's not much mileage to be got out of it,
In your plays, the story is very important. Do you think the art of storytelling is undervalued now?
In plays? Yes, I think totally undervalued, and I think very sadly so. To me, the art of storytelling, the art of narrative, is almost the most important element in theatre, and I think it's been very badly neglected. I remember when I was in Morocco some years ago, I went into that huge square, great market square, one evening, and there was an enormous crowd of people sitting on the ground listening to an itinerant storyteller. And I have never seen such electric expectation on faces before. And I remember feeling, if only one could get that atmosphere into an audience in a theatre, one would be doing very good work. I think it's far too often neglected nowadays among contemporary playwrights. So many times audiences come out feeling, with modern plays, yes, the characters were very good, and I thought he heard the dialogue very well, and that moment was wonderfully directed. But these appear to me to be subsidiary elements. What the audiences seem also to come out feeling is slightly starved, cheated. If you've ever had the experience of telling a child a bedtime story, and watching the way a child hangs on your suspension of its disbelief, I think you will receive, anyone who does this will receive, a terrific lesson in playwriting. If you actually say, that ashtray is a castle, and that is a lake, this lighter, for as long as you believe in the story yourself, that child will believe that that is a castle and that is a lake. The moment when you wander from it, the child very disappointedly but insistently will say, no, you've muddled it up. Don't you remember that? In other words, you have the business of selling a totally imaginative concept to a child. And a child is very like an audience in that way. It is very willing to buy any kind of concept as long as the thing is done with sufficient conviction and passion. It's a terrific exercise.
Is this an inherent quality in a writer?
I think it's the need for a story is an inherent quality in people. I think the need to be told a story is almost as deep a need as sex or hunger. I mean, if you say to anybody, an extraordinary thing happened to me yesterday, at least for that working minute, you've got a terrific sense of attention. People's ears prick up.
How do you write? Do you set a certain time aside every day?
I do. Try to do this. I go to work usually about 9:30, 10 in the morning and work till lunchtime. That's what I try to do. I think I share with a great many people a sort of laziness and a kind of dread of writing. I find it very difficult, and it gets more difficult as I go on. I find it painful. And I don't mean agonizing, I just find it a great chore, a great labor to pin down what I'm after. I find that my consciousness changes between the morning and the afternoon, totally, and that what I'm writing in the morning, in terms of its style and vivacity and approach, has been amended in the afternoon. And I think it would almost be better for me to write two plays at the same time, a morning play and an evening play, rather than coming back to the morning play again in the evening, because what I find I do is to create a sort of mad pendulum for myself. I rewrite in the evening what I've written in the morning.
Did you decide very early in your life to become a writer?
I always wanted to be a writer, but as I said a moment ago, I was a Puritan, and I believed that you should never do anything you really liked doing, that respectable things were, professions were things like doctors and businessmen and all that world. And so for many years I sort of resisted it. And then after a bit I realized that I was truly unemployable in terms of an office worker. I mean, I was bored so much by offices, and I worked in quite a lot of them, that I'd really better get on with it and try my hand at writing. Little did I know how, when one committed to it full time, it was much more rigorous and, for me, and more alarming than it would have been if I'd sat behind a desk. But of course things do take over, you know. You begin, it's very interesting, you begin 3 ideas at once, because you don't really know which one you want to write, or 3 ideas suggest themselves, and then one suddenly insists and begins to nudge the others out of the way, elbow them out of the way, and you are left with this central incoherence, which is nevertheless insisting and saying, write me, and or at least have a go at me, chip away and see what you can find. I do find that very exciting. I don't find it worrying at all, because I'm not really sure that I'm very good at anything else much. I mean, I do enjoy many other things. I enjoy the country very much, and I don't like holidays. Beaches bore me to death. And I love having dinner and with friends and that sort of thing. But I do not particularly have any other activities that I'd rather be doing, except possibly music. And therefore it's a salvation to me to have this.
What do you think is your worst quality?
An inability to make up my mind. Vacillation, I think. Vacillation.
And your best?
I knew that was coming. My best. Living with my own vacillation, I think. Making, sometimes screwing myself up to actually making firm commitments. For a playwright, I think you've got to have that kind of slightly liquid quality of being able to dart into one person's mental corner and then into another.
In 1964, Peter Shaffer reached the National Theatre. The Royal Hunt of the Sun was a total break from his previous work. It also marked the beginning of the collaboration with director John Dexter. The lavish production starred Robert Stevens as the King God of the Incas and Colin Blakely as Pizarro, the Spanish conquistador. As in Equus, 2 men confront each other in a battle over ideas, beliefs, and cultures. It was the first Shaffer play trying to come to terms with people's need to transcend their lives through faith and ritual.
I think I always wanted to do strictly non-naturalistic plays. It's very difficult to avoid pompous words like epic plays. I'm not making a qualitative judgment on the plays. I'm just talking about the kind of plays I attempted in Royal Hunt of the Sun, for example, which is what I imagine you mean. And I always wanted to write that kind of play. I wanted to write plays involving, it became something of a cliche, the words total theatre. But by that I mean theatre that is, of course, a text, but fulfilled by gesture and ritual and magic, masks, all that.
You have this fascination with the mask.
Yes, I have indeed. When we did Royal Hunt of the Sun, we used a lot of costumes, and indeed Bob Stevens as Atahualpa, the Inca, had more feathers on than Miss Tanguette. When we came to solve the end of the play, which was about the death and hoped-for resurrection of the Inca, we found that we'd exhausted all those sort of effects. And I was looking at those extraordinary gold funeral masks of the Incas, those ones with long triangular eyes. And I'll never forget the first time they arrived in the theatre, and a couple of the lads who were playing Inca priests put them on, and the transformation that happened on stage. And when, of course, they were 16 of them at the end, when they were all assembled, the temperature in the house rose enormously. And later, when the audience came out of that theatre, they said, how did one get the mask to reflect joy, hope, gloom, to change expression? And what, of course, was happening was not that the masks changed in any way. What was happening was that the changes in the communal imagination of the audience, the communal emotion of the audience, were being invested into those masks. And when I saw this, I became deeply fascinated because I understood for the first time why, for example, ancient Greek theatre used masks, how they can, when they're very good, take that investment of communal imagination and communal emotion and turn it back to the audience, reflect it. I say when they're good because masks have to be great objects or they merely look pretentious. I began to understand why, for example, in the No theatre, the actors will contemplate their masks, apparently, for half an hour before wearing them. They will invest the masks with their own psychic energy. When we came to do Equus, it was, again, a matter of masks because we couldn't do the horses any other way. And what one wanted to avoid, of course, was any suggestion of the pantomime horse or of anything clothy, anything too naturalistic. And actually it was John Dexter, the director of Equus, who improved on the original thought of having opaque masks by making them transparent.
Equus, the god-slave,
His instinct,
and true,
and I think it's an absolutely correct one, was that the subject of Equus was, among many other things, a double image, about how the boy regarded the horse as the god in the horse. And the ability of the audience to see through the wire of the horses' heads into the faces of the actors. I think, in a funny way, audiences in Equus tend to see horses in a more imaginative and almost, funnily enough, literal way than if they were real horses.
Here we go. The king rides out on Equus, mightiest of horses. Only I can ride him. He lets me turn him this way and that. His neck comes out of my body. It lifts in the dark. Equus, the god-slave. Now the king commands you. Tonight we ride against them all. My foes and his.
Who are your foes?
The host of Hoover, the host of Philco, the host of Pifco, the house of Remington and all its tribes.
Who are his foes?
The hosts of Jodpa, the hosts of Bola and Gymkhana, all those who show him off for their vanity, tie rosettes on his head for their vanity. Oh, come on, Equus, let's get them. Trot. Steady, 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 steady! Cowboys are watching. Take off their Stetsons. You know who we are. They're admiring us, bowing low unto us. Come on, Equus. Let's show them. Canter! Canter! And Equus the mighty rode against all his enemies. Scatter his enemies, fall. Turn. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them.